Hey, what's up, guys? It's Eddie's, one half of the Horror Highway. I'll try to keep this intro short. I just want to let you guys know that I'm using this list. It should be linked in the description. That gets posted on 4chan Creepypasta threads, showing us original 4chan Creepypastas. So that's what I'm using. Yeah. Hey, have you ever heard of spotter.mp4? Supposedly, it's a video that could appear to anyone on any video sharing site. You can recognize it by the title. A thumbnail containing two eyes on a completely black background, and the lack of an author listed anywhere. The video itself contains about 30 seconds of just eyes from the thumbnail, staring at the screen, backed by the audio of heavy breathing, occasional swallowing, and, near the end, what can only be assumed to be someone just loudly licking their lips. At least, this is how people who claim to have seen the video described it prior to their deaths, because anyone who views spotter.mp4 will spontaneously die within hours of unknown causes. Some people who haven't seen the video themselves, but say that they knew someone who did, have told stories of finding the corpse of the viewer in their home, and then later learning that it was entirely drained of blood and missing several vital organs, all seeming to have mysteriously vanished from their body. Another property the video is said to have is that once it appears, it won't leave you alone. You can ignore it, remove it from your recommendations, switch accounts, and even use a different device, but it will always show up again sooner or later. It's clever too. It can disappear for months at a time, only to reappear just as you forgot about it, and guess the position where it's most likely for you to accidentally click on it based on your mouse movement. If evaded for too long, it'll even go as far as to disguise itself as other videos, leaving nothing but its eyes to tip you off. It's as if it has a mind of its own and desperately wants to be seen. Of course, this is all just rumors. Spotter.mp4 has never been proven to truly exist, and even if it did, it's unlikely that you would ever come across it in your lifetime. Be warned, however, just because you haven't seen spotter.mp4, that doesn't mean it hasn't spotted you. The Cleaner. There's a little secret inside County View Hospital. You learn about it as part of training day. You get gathered into separate groups in an in-depth tour of the department your job is focused in. You're then shown a brief tour for the rest of the hospital. Given a slight mention then, you'll get used to the rest of the place the more you work here. And then, when you're taken to the morgue, that's when you'll be shown the secret. We don't house any monsters here, in case you're wondering. No ghouls or beasts that eat any corpses or workers that come their way down. I can promise you that. But it is a dangerous thing. There's a good reason that, even if you won't work in the morgue, you're given an in-depth explanation about it. The thing in question is an experimental machine that's designed to emulsify corpses. The machine achieves this with an acid shower, melting the flesh and organs away into liquid while the bones are left intact. There's no official name for the thing, but I like to call it the Cleaner, since at the end, it gives the skeleton a bleach white look to it. The Cleaner looks like an iron coffin with some glass on its left and right side, to see how the emulsifying is coming along. Underneath the coffin is some polyethylene tubes that lead down into a large bucket for the mixture of liquids, which tends to come out as blackened sludge to be thrown out. It sits inside the middle of the morgue, its sleek and dark gray look contrasting with the muddied whites of the walls, floors, and ceiling. To ensure that any new trainees are careful with the machine, we are told a story about Stefan. Stefan was a morgue's assistant, a young man who just got on the job recently as we did. He was a smart and charming man, albeit one who was clumsy and forgetful. He did his best to make up for the flaws by following the routine related to the machine as closely as he possibly could. It was a night shift job, and it all began when examination of the body had ended and when permission had been granted by the relatives of the deceased. He'd carted the body inside the coffin and let it rest inside. He'd close the many doors on the top and bottom sides of the coffin. Then he'd push a red button on the bottom side of the coffin and let it work its magic. While he melted the body, he'd prepare himself by dressing up in a protective suit, complete with a gas mask and gloves. Once the machine was finished, he'd wheel the skeleton out from the coffin and bring it to one of the lockers
For the bucket, he'd carry it towards a specially made waste container before taking that to the waste disposal. It wouldn't take a genius to figure out that on one of these days something went wrong. In actuality, a few things went wrong. Most of them were beyond Stefan's control, aside from some key mistakes. The first mistake was that the body was to be melted. For lack of a better way of putting this, it was a fat man's corpse. Its weight exceeded what was generally recommended for the machine, yet the hospital had already signed off on the body being emulsified. To be on the safe side, Stefan opted to use a larger bucket to carry all the mixture at once, for when it needed to be moved. The second mistake was entirely on Stefan and his charms. As he had pushed a button and got on the cleaner to work, he received a call from a girlfriend of his. She was someone he had met at the hospital. The one in charge of the tour says she was just leaving work and wanted to see how he was doing. He was in the middle of getting his protective gear on when the call came, and Stefan couldn't help himself in getting distracted. When he finished the call, the machine had finished its duty. The third mistake he made was zipping up his suit and heading towards the machine without the gas mask or gloves. He felt rushed. He didn't want to fall behind schedule and risk getting reprimanded. He carefully brought the skeleton to its locker and then went up to pick up the bucket. The first mistake that was made was starting to become realized in the mixture of liquid flesh and acid. It was a lot heavier than Stefan realized. It wasn't impossible to lift. It only took more effort than Stefan used. Since it was a night shift job, everyone else had gone home for the night. Not wanting to leave the job undone, he got to work carrying the bucket to the waste disposal container. The penultimate mistake was not noticing the bucket had overflowed. Some of the mixture had leaked onto the floor. Holding the bucket up on its chest, Stefan couldn't see the mess on the floor, and he walked directly on top of it. With a quick slip onto his back, the mixture splashed on top of him. The last mistake was not even his fault, but the hospital's. The protective suit could only protect him from low concentrations of acid. Even with the massive dilution of liquid flesh, it wasn't enough to protect Stefan. He wasn't found until hours later, when one of the janitors went to do his work there. The smell was already overpowering before the door was even opened. The janitor had to hold up a cloth to his mouth before he could go inside. Once the door was opened, he found Stefan lying on the floor. He had been trying to get to the sink, resting on his stomach with one of his arms outstretched. A meter or so from the sink, a river of pink and red blood followed him, with bits and pieces of internal organs mixed in. His back was dotted with large holes that only showed Stefan's skeleton, a thick and viscous sludge on the floor beneath him. When his body was turned over, his face was unrecognizable. A half-melted eyeball, his teeth and hair were the only clues that showed who he was. What was left of his face was turning into a sort of brownish sludge, mixed in with some dark reds and blacks. A light shade of pink came through in the middle of it all. His brain matter leaking through what remained of his nose. It took 2 weeks for the smell to eventually pass. Months for both janitors and Stefan's girlfriends to start making progress on the road to mental recovery, all because of some little mistakes that piled up into the death of an innocent man. Moral of the story? Don't fuck with the cleaner, and it won't fuck with you. It's our last gig on the road before we need to make our next album. Right now, we're all backstage. Pretty highbrow place. Certainly a step above other places, since we're not packed tight together like pickles in a jar. Smells better too. I've been sitting down on the couch, strumming some chords on the first guitar I bought for this band. John's saying I need to relax myself. Before we start, something about how my leg is shaking. Fucker doesn't know how to direct his hands to do anything but play bass. He certainly doesn't know shit about how I'm feeling. I'm fucking ecstatic. I haven't felt this amazing since our prime years, 20-something years back, and I still feel like a 25-year-old pipsqueak dipshit making it big. I don't give a fuck if it isn't the 80s anymore. Our crowd certainly doesn't. I can hear them past the curtain screaming our names, the sound of our collective fan base adoring us, and wanting to bang us hasn't changed a bit. I'm sure a good portion of them still want me too. Who the fuck wouldn't want me? I'm Neil Kashmir. Of course they want me. Never needed some stupid Botox surgery like old drummer boy Thomas, and I don't need makeup like that John. I'm 50% beautiful and 50% talent. I never needed anything else. No crutches for me. Show's going to start anytime soon, and I can't fucking wait. When they hear that I've still got the guitar and still got the fingers to use that bitch, I'm in the history books. I'm up there with the fucking greats in Valhalla, and tonight will prove that. Donnie's saying we're up. Fucker is the only one who recognizes me as the best guy here. Bastard deserves a high five. I feel like running out here. I could run an Olympic marathon right now. I'm so fucking pumped. I can take on the entire world, and they'd do nothing but lick my boots and praise me as the god I am. Just need to hit that simple state, and I'm fucking in. Been practicing getting into the flow state for a fair bit. Before this performance, about a week or so ago. So I've probably hit it before without thinking, but I could train myself into getting into it intentionally. I needed that. I'll get that. If these guys need to remember me, I'm going to give them a show they'll never forget. And if they're going to get that, I need to be running at full capacity. Pure focus on what needs to be done. Flowing like water. I can do this. First song's up. It's the hit that got us famous in the first place. Lily's Over There. Simple song, but blown out of proportion. Can't get into flow with this song. I've gotten sick of it. It's far away as our worst song. It never lets us do the shit we can actually do well. Plus, it means I've got to sit back in the background while pretty boy Thomas tries his hand at doing some groovy beats. Bastard. Just gonna play along until it's my time to shine. Tonight's going to be the night to remember, and it's not going to be because of Lily's Over There. It's all just going to be me. Song's finally done. Thank God. Still thinking on where I need to show off my greatness. Doing it so quickly at the second song, it's not going to be the time. I need to save that for somewhere near the end. Can't be right at the end though. That's Donnie's big solo. Powerhouse moment. That's all his, and not my place to ruin it. I mean, of course, I'll be able to overshadow it earlier in the gig, but I can't overshadow him when it's his time. He's the only guy here I respect. Thomas is a candy-ass sellout, and there's no moment that goes by where I don't want John to drown himself in his clean fucking water. God, he's doing it again. Probably swigging on a bottle of that shit, like it's the tastiest thing in the world aside from his boyfriend's cum. Bastard still wants to taunt me about what everyone else did in the 80s. I did it the worst, but so did everyone else. Not clean Johnny though. Never clean Johnny. Oh yeah, flow state. Still need to decide when to hit that. We've already swept through a good chunk of the songs that I don't give a shit about. We're going to be hitting the real heavy hitters soon. The ones our actual fans care about. Not the pussy shit that the general populace listens to. This is for the fans of actual rock and roll. The people that give a shit about what people like us do. The world at large throws shit like this away so that some bullshit like Blink-182 or some other jackasses who just touch their instruments get all the attention. But not the people who actually give a shit about good music. They're still here, and they deserve good music. So let's see. Our next song. I'll do it. I'll get into flow state and treat these fuckers to something they've never seen before. Time to say Farewell Martian. And time to say hello to the song that's gonna make me a legend. Going Over. It was the best song on our sophomore album. And it's one of our few songs that lets me get a solo. Can't hit it just yet. Need to savor it. It comes near the end of this song, so I need to hold myself steady. Can't fucking wait. The whole world will know me. Donnie's pouring his heart out into the vocals as always. Thomas is mindlessly doing his part. John is absentmindedly acting like a cock. He doesn't know what's going to happen. It's just going to make things a lot more sweeter. Almost there. Almost there. It's here. Solo time. Just need to think about what's in front of me. This isn't about putting on a legendary performance. It's about performing. Just need to do what I do best. 50% talent has to grow into 100%. Fuck the beauty side. This is what I have to be known for. Fuck the past, and fuck the drugs. This is who I am. My hands are going off by themselves. They know how to play better than any prodigy. Muscle memory kicks in. I'm playing these strings like a man possessed. Everything becomes a blur. I'm nowhere but here and now. It's all coming at once, and it feels natural. The noise of the crowd screaming, it's starting to blend in, but I just have to block it out. I'm nowhere else but here. Keep them goddamn hands moving. Let those techniques come quickly to keep things fresh. I'm hitting the jackpot. This is it. There's no other time but now. No other time but... John, what the fuck does he think he's doing? Stop grabbing my goddamn shoulder. My solo's still going on. If it extends the performance, then roll with it. Don't waste my time. He's still holding my shoulder. You ain't stopping me for shit. You've had your turn. Let a real adult show you how it's done. Shit. He's throwing me off my rhythm. I'm losing the solo. Losing flow. Need to stay like water. I push him aside from me and keep playing. Managed to do it. On rhythm too. The crowd loves that. Back to flow. Nowhere else but here. He's trying to grab my guitar. That cocksucker. This is my fucking moment, and he's ruining it. The moment's going to pass. Almost out of flow. Need to stop him. Gotta make him learn his place. He wants the guitar. He's gonna fucking get it. Hold onto the neck of the guitar and swing at his head like an axe. His teeth fly off into the stage. Think one of them got lodged into the guitar. His mouth is dripping blood all over the stage. He looks at me wide-eyed. He's never been hit before. It's the best I've ever seen him. Need more out of him. I keep a hold of the guitar and swing it at him again, hitting him in the neck. He drops to the floor in a daze. Need more. Nowhere else but here. I flip him to the side so that I can see. I flip him to the side so that I can keep seeing that look on his face. I hold my weapon over him and slam it down onto him. And I keep going. Hands are going off by themselves. Every time I slam it down, blood splatters off into the front row. They're still there. They're either transfixed or they can't leave. Either or doesn't matter. I keep slamming. His bones are breaking through the skin. His jaw's looking like mush. His tongue hangs out loose, out of his mouth. He keeps looking at me. I see those eyes shimmer. He still knows how to piss me off. One more slam and he's not looking at me anymore. Crushed his fucking eyes like grapes. Donnie's trying to drag me off while Thomas is barfing up his breakfast onto his drum set. Can't stop me. No use trying to stop the flow. I'm like fucking water. Can't stop me. Can't stop me. Can't stop. I'm no longer on stage. I'm backstage. My hands are kept tied behind my back, and they've got a gag over my mouth. Probably worried I'll bite off someone's face. Not needed. I ain't killing anyone else here. I'd have to be some weird psychopath to try that. Fuck that. John was enough. That solo was enough. I think I'm finally in. The legends must be smiling at me. Best damn solo I've ever played. Would have been better without the interruption, but hey, beggars can't be choosers. I can just about see John being carried away on a stretcher, still dripping blood everywhere. The cover isn't enough. Little parts of his scalp and cheek are sliding out. Hope you enjoyed the makeover, cunt. You'll be forgotten in a couple of years, guaranteed. And I'll still be known. Still going to be a legend, even when I'm rotting in prison. Die-hard fans will excuse me. I'm the fucking king. I'm Neil Kashmir. Best guitar player in the fucking world.